Well, folks, here we are for the weekly forecast. We did, in this last 7 days, see a fairly significant little mid-level low that moved across the state that brought some very welcome moisture to a sizable portion of the panhandle. And when we say welcome moisture, generally 1 to upwards of 3 inches of rainfall was reported at least across the eastern 2/3 of the panhandle. Very, very welcome, considering that we've had some problems last year in regards to wheat planting, so we've got the moisture now for good wheat establishment, and potentially, if we can get some further events, have the ability to start rapidly rebuilding soil moisture profiles in anticipation of next cropping season. Now, as you move further east, of course, we did not see nearly as aggressive a precipitation pattern, although some areas did receive some isolated heavy thunderstorm activity. There was a line that developed across southeast Nebraska. So we are getting a little bit more active weather than we were here a month ago. I wish we could have gotten that precip then. Unfortunately, it is what it is. But at least we're getting some semblance of a regular frequency of storms moving through our region. And that does give us some encouraging prospects for building up subsoil moisture recharge before we get into the winter period, and maybe ease the pressure a little bit in regards to drought signatures as we go into next spring. So time will tell. In regards to this 7-day forecast period, once again, we have a system that has moved through the state and will be exiting as we go through this weekend, bringing some rather cool temperatures, and then we go back through the roller coaster ride. So let's take a look at how the upper air models are projecting our weather as we go through this next 7-day period. And the system that came through over the last 24 hours across the state with the sharp cold front is now moving across the upper Great Lakes. And so we should see the shower activity here in eastern Nebraska come to an end during the first half of the day, and we'll see clearing skies develop from west to east as the day progresses. As we go into tomorrow, we'll start to see some ridging taking place. Looks like it'll be a fairly blah day in terms of precipitation, but if you like sunny weather, this should be a fairly nice day across the state as the ridge tries to build in temporarily. We do see a trough coming into the Pacific Northwest, and it looks to be a fairly weak one. So we'll continue to see light ridging. Nothing in the way of any precipitation expected on Monday. Should be a very nice day with temperatures primarily in the 70s to possibly the low 80s across the south part of the state. As we go into Tuesday, this little system moves across the northern plains region. That may bring some cloudiness and maybe a sprinkle or so to portions of northern Nebraska. Less of a chance as you get to southern Nebraska. But overall, we're only going to see a couple degree cool down as the system moves toward the Great Lakes. And as we get into Wednesday, we'll see that that first system moves out. We'll get another little brief period of warming, and a more significant trough looks like it's poised to make its way into our region, particularly as we get to the later half of the week. Now, as we go into Thursday, we'll see that that trough starts to dig across toward the western Great Lakes. We do have the chance for some precipitation, particularly Wednesday afternoon, evening, all the way through midday Thursday before we start to see the cold air rapidly pulling in behind this system. And we'll see a significant drop in temperatures, particularly as we get into the day on Friday. As the system starts to intensify over the western Great Lakes, it's really going to pull the cold air down. And it would not surprise me that we will see a killing freeze across a good portion of the eastern Dakotas and possibly even eastern Nebraska. So if we look at this temperature forecast, we will see the roller coaster where we start cool, start to warm up into the 70s to the 80s, and then as we get to late next week, notice those 53-degree highs in the northeast indicating very cold weather coming in. 8 to 14-day forecast continues to point to warmer conditions to our west with the cool conditions to our southeast. In terms of precipitation, shown below normal precipitation, but we do have a fairly significant system coming in later next week that's likely to undo some of this projection, at least here in Nebraska.